So, in this conversation about mindfulness, in your experience as the guru, the master, the higher vibrations of
hmm
nirvana, how do you navigate the feelings with the feelings?
Well, it took me 10 years, to fully get into nirvana, but there was a lot I had to do. I had to look in the mirror and really look at myself, and when I looked at myself, I was able to find out that only I can be the one to reach nirvana. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Wow. Wow. That I just need to take a moment to breathe that in because, wow. So, when you found yourself, where was it?
It was at the bottom of a cup of water, honestly. I looked at the cup and I looked at the bottom and I just had this like feeling. I think it was from a higher power. And it came to me and it told me that I needed to change my life. I needed to get out of this darkness and figure out what I
Mm.
needed to do with my
Mhm.
life. And that
Mm.
was enough to make me go, oh, and now I teach meditation classes. I give talks about meditation. My family knows all about it. My friends,
Mhm.
they know what I had to go through. And now all I do is get people to also breathe in and be in nirvana.
Wow, that is just, it's so beautiful, and it just
I know,
reminds me of like when I came to your retreat because you're a
Yes.
coach, a master, and a guru, and we were up in the mountains, levitating. I just knew that this is where I could also find myself, and even the water, like the water is so important because it's water, right? And it's just wow, and
Yeah,
that's what's
anyone can do it.
important.
Anyone,
Right,
But you
right.
have to be where I am at. You have to do it the way that I do it. You have to go to the
Exactly.
mountains, You
Right,
can't just sit around and just think it's coming. You need to go to the mountains
right,
with the water, you
right.
know? Like you just have to feel it and
Yes.
understand it and then become
Wow.
one, you know?
Wow.
And it's
Right,
hard, 10 years of just, not eating, not drinking, not sleeping.
right,
I'm just meditating,
right.
I'm just and don't tell anybody this, but when they say that only one person can walk on the water, well, you know what? That's not true. I am the second person that can walk on
Wow.
water. Yeah,
Wow. No,
yeah.
it's true that like if you don't do it exactly the way you do it, people just are not even serious, Like they don't even
Yeah,
there's no way you can do this if you don't do it exactly the way you're doing it because
exactly.
you are
Because
the
I am the
coach
one and the
and you're the one.
two. We kept doing it for as long as we could. I was trying to hard to start laughing. But everybody that was listening was like, this is dumb. They just left. Just
Exactly. Anyways, I guess now that concludes our skit.
Yes.
So, hey, welcome to another episode. I am
Yes.
Dagny.
I am Damali,
And in
and I
this
am not a
episode,
guru.
yes. And in this episode, we are doing part 2 of our discussion on eliminating distractions. And in this
Mhm.
conversation, we wanted to speak on our own experiences when it comes to mindfulness, meditation, yoga, regulating emotions, and how we navigate that not only for ourselves, but also the bigger discussion of how that's being navigated in commercialization and privileges. So, we chose to start this episode with a very special skit, which is what you just listened to segue into the first part of this discussion when it comes to the commercialization, the capitalization, and possibly in some respects, the westernization of mindfulness, meditation, yoga, and eliminating distractions. So, that is what this skit was reflecting and representing and illustrating, where Damali was the coach, guru, master of mindfulness who will host retreats, have books, have master classes, insisting that the only way to walk on water is the way she does it.
Of
And
course.
I am the so-called mindfulness influencer who also will be giving a whole bunch of content But then when doing these sorts of interviews, maybe asking questions that if you were listening sounded really not
empty.
that profound. Exactly. Pretty empty. Now, again, we are doing this through love. It comes from a place of love, not judgment, not indictment. If that's how you got to secure the bag, go ahead and secure the bag. Yes. But before we go into our experiences, wanted to take some time to take note of where our mindset is at when it comes to eliminating distractions through mindfulness, meditation, and yoga. And I feel like, or we do feel like it's important to be also mindful of what that industry, because it has become an industry, has become, and which aspects of it being very, again, intentional and disciplined, like we spoke about in the last episode, about which aspects of it do you choose to participate in, and which aspects of it you can see don't resonate with you, but you don't allow it to block you from finding the tools and the methods and the resources that will be of help to you and your healing and everyone around you. So, to start, well, we've already started, but
basically, this just to continue.
Put it as a question for you, Damali, to respond to, then I'll respond afterwards. In terms of the commercialization, westernization, hijacking of mindfulness, meditation, yoga, and this wellness industry, how has that made you feel when it comes to you trying to find the tools, the tips, the resources for yourself?
So to start or to continue, I think, we know how the world, money makes the world go round, as they say. And so people like to capitalize on things. And if they see a need, they're like, oh, well, if we can make money off of people, let's try to do things that can do that. And one of those is the commercialization of, a mixture of things like commercialization of yoga, commercialization of healing, mindfulness, all of that. There's a lot of information out there, and I don't know if all of it is useful or not. The older I get, I find that you kind of have to find your own recipe to help you with your emotions or healing or stuff like that. And so most things I look at, or whether it be on YouTube or Instagram or books, or when I'm looking for ways to heal better, or ways to like deal with my emotions, I guess, I try to take it with like a grain of salt. There's a lot of information, like it might work for that person, but not for me, right? Or maybe this is something that, like, because everyone speaks from their own experience, right? They can't speak for everyone's experience. So you kind of, have to, that's why I kind of try to, well, sometimes I guess look for more, maybe not so much, well, I guess some nonfiction, but some like objective items as well. Like people just saying, okay, well, if you do this, this will happen. And here are the tools, and you do it in your own way, kind of thing. And I feel like that is the best advice, I guess, because sometimes people are like, oh, if you just do this, then it'll work, kind of thing. And it's like, well, I don't know. And then sometimes I'll try to do what other people do. It doesn't really work. And so, there's definitely been this wave of like, everyone now is a guru. Everyone knows everything. Everyone is a healer or has all of the answers. And I don't know if that's, and that's fine. I mean, if that helps you in your life, and because, some other people get help from that too. There are some people that they follow everything that you instructed to like a T, and then they're able to find what they need, and it helps them, right? But then, so it's not wrong for that. It's not wrong to provide a service to help people with their healing, and then there's a side of it there's like capitalization, like you get paid for the services you give out. Nothing wrong with that. It's just hopefully it's legit, I guess I should say, because there's a lot of scams out there, and a lot of things that are not really what we were trying to make a sort of joke of that in the beginning, which no hate, just a joke of how like sometimes those things can seem kind of a bit much, and I don't know how much of it I vibe with or agree with. But yeah, so that's one side of it that I will bring up on that point. And then also to add, I think the older I've gotten, we'll go more into this more later, but in terms of dealing with my emotions, since emotions are a big part of life, obviously. Actions are a big part of the emotions too. It's only kind of like in more recent years, I've been able to figure out better ways to kind of deal with my emotions so they don't completely dictate everything that I do, kind of thing. And I kind of wonder, why is it only in recent years? Like, why couldn't I know all this stuff like younger, or especially like as a teenager? Because teenage years are really tough because you have all these crazy emotions going on, you know, and you don't know what to do with them. And sometimes adults forget that they went through that as a teenager. So sometimes they don't know how to help you, kind of thing. And it would have been nice to kind of not just like feel them, right? Whereas I feel like it's only recently where I'm like, oh, okay, maybe my emotions don't have to be my enemy. Like maybe they don't have to be so out of control. So still kind of figuring that out, but that's the start. And what about you, Dagny? What do you feel about the commercialization of healing and mindfulness?
I would say, for me, maybe I'll categorize it in two things. I feel on the one hand, I think the commercialization of the mindfulness industry has sometimes, depending on where you live, of course, or what communities you're in, has made some of it become very diluted, where it's a commodity, it's an aesthetic, it's only for certain types of people to do. And I feel it removes the value or the depth or the weight that it should be holding. And because the commercialization tends to really pull on a westernization of this industry. So part of my frame of reference is the US, but I've been also seeing this in Ghana when it comes to the yoga space here or the mindfulness space here in some regards, where this, how do I put it? Where, okay, I do practice yoga, okay? I'm going to put this as a personal experience. I do practice yoga, which involves meditation and involves a whole lifestyle. When you do the original way of like how Indians who are a part of why it was created. When I started back in the US, I think I was first introduced to it on campus. Yeah. And that's where you can get like, since you're a student, you can get like a free yoga session. And I remember, even though I really wanted to do it, I remember feeling so overwhelmed and dizzy and inadequate during the session. And this is not to lay blame on anybody else, but I'm in a room where nobody else looks like me. Everybody else is wearing biker shorts, sports bra, Jane Fonda type gym clothes. And it's almost a semi-fast paced. We're supposed to just like stand on our head or upside down and then twist and then turn. And then, okay, we're done. Yay. Let's go get a latte, iced coffee afterwards and move on. And we walk around with our yoga mat. And I did not feel rejuvenated. I did not feel stretched. I didn't feel good at all. And initially kind of made me feel like, well, I guess maybe yoga's not for me, I guess. I don't know. Because already I knew that gym and pumping iron wasn't the thing for me. So I was trying to find, well, maybe mindfulness in this way of exercise would be better. Fast forward, and I started trying to look at it for myself. Okay, finding YouTube videos, finding documentaries, finding like I actually want to do the real yoga that is taking on every other aspect of your life, not just stretching. And that is when I started creating a better rapport with it for myself. Then fast forward to I do a yoga session here in Accra, where, yes, in the room, there are different shades of brown. There are different sizes. We are wearing whatever we wanted to wear. So yes, some people will be a fitted gym fit. Others are wearing a more loose fit. And the movements and the energy is one of, you don't have to be a pretzel to do it. The point is that you feel good in what you're doing. And actually, we just want to create a space for you to feel present and get what you need from this session. And to me, that was such a different experience. Like, this is what I've been looking for. Like, okay, so yes, yoga can be for me too. It's just the certain style or side of it or commodification of it that I initially was exposed to didn't work for me. And so I take note that the commercialization, I feel, has sometimes, depending on how you are exposed to it, can be restrictive or exclude people. Because if you search on Google or whatever for yoga or yoga poses or yoga styles, unfortunately, the first images and the first videos are really skinny, very fair-skinned people in the biker shorts, in the sports bra, being a pretzel, standing on their head, doing things like that. And that's it. And it's just stretching and look, I can do a split and that's it. When it should be, if you are into yoga as in and I don't want to be like, well, this one's fake and that one's real, so you should only do the real one. I do believe you should do the one that resonates with you. But if you want to have depth in your yoga practice, you need to understand that the brown people who invented it was not just about stretching. It's a whole lifestyle. You do yoga and how you interact with people, how you interact with things, how you interact with your thoughts, how you're always coming from a space of love, how you're stretching your chakras as well as your body. There's like so much depth to it. And when you look at brown people doing yoga originally, they actually they're not wearing those. It's not how do I put it? It's not to showcase their body in that way. And I'm not sure, and I don't want to, I'm not here to dictate what you can or cannot wear during yoga or what you should or should not look like. But I do prefer wearing, like for me, I prefer wearing or seeing the types of fits you can wear for yoga, that these are actually the same types of clothing I can lounge in at home, or the same types of clothing I could go out if I just change up the shoes and add something to it, where it's slightly loose fitting pants, but maybe it's cinched at the waist. And you're sure, maybe it's a crop top because it's a high waist pant and you can put a kimono over it or something else. Like you can mix and match it, but it's cozy. To me personally, I don't find the 80s gym wear cozy, right? It's a vibe. It was a time. It's come back and it's cute if that's what you like, but that's not my vibe. And I think because for me, yoga is not just the stretching, but there is meditation involved, mindfulness involved, a lot of energy and physical training that you're doing. I just feel like the uniform or what you decide to cloak yourself with is also part of that. And when we are going the route of the commercialization route, sometimes I feel gives off, again, we're pushing an aesthetic. And so again, the aesthetic of if you're wearing the 80s vibe gym clothing, the aesthetic is, well, you need to be a certain size. Because why would we want to see any other size in that clothing, which is again restrictive, because then it makes it seem like if you're not skinny, why are you doing yoga? There's no possible way you should be doing it. When if you see original brown people, we thick people can do it too. The short people can do it too. The tall people can do it too. Somebody with 1 or 2 legs can do it too. Like it's not that. Similar to if a certain skin tone or a certain hair texture, all of that, unfortunately, the westernized, commercialized part of the industry insists always on masking it with a certain aesthetic, which unfortunately I think becomes exclusive and restrictive.
I agree.
And dilutes it. So I note that, wanted to bring this up in the conversation to make sure that as we continue our experiences sharing with you about mindfulness and stuff, understand that with the tips and stuff that we are sharing with you, make sure, like we just noted, that you got to also make the effort to take what resonates with you and search for the tools and methods that resonate with you, and don't allow the commodification of these sorts of practices to restrict you or block you from them. Because to be honest, they originally, like there's different aspects of mindfulness and meditation. We're talking about yoga right now, but if you go into the other Asian side with like Tai Chi and things like that, that's also a completely other type of mindfulness and meditation that also, if you see it in another part of the world, they will also insist, commodify it to make it seem like only certain people can do it. You can only wear these certain things. You can only be a master of it if you do these certain things. When the original one is, no, it's really more like a form of, this meditation is kind of a form of prayer in terms of how you are stretching and connecting yourself energetically and physically. So it's important, I feel, for me in my journey, it's always been important to make sure that I take the time and make the effort to see, well, let me see how the originals have done it.
The originals vampires.
And see like, okay, how can I implement that? Because no, I have yet to visit India or other parts of Asia to be like, I'm learning with an original person. We didn't do Tai Chi when we went to go visit. Now, did we? No. So, I've been having to do it either on my own and then experience it in other groups. But I'm grateful that now I'm able to do it in a way of like, I understand what resonates with me. I'm not necessarily disgusted by what doesn't, but I'm able to create a formula that works for me so I can still have what I deserve, which is mindfulness and regulating of emotions and eliminating distractions that is actually healthy for me and resonates with me and who I am.
Yeah, and I agree with the yoga part where it's not so much that it's bad. Like if you want to wear the stretchy tight yoga pants and the sports bra, like it's fine. It's just I guess I don't like the commercial part where it makes it seem as if that's it, like that's all that there is to it. When it just makes it kind of exclusive. It's the exclusivity that I think is the issue that I have an issue with. That's the issue that I have an issue with. You understand? Okay. The issue I have a problem with. Okay, there you go. Synonym. Yeah, and then also I think about the celebrities too. Like they also, I mean, whatever, they get paid, it's their job, but that also another layer of it where you have all these like skinny. I mean, we're getting more different figured celebrity, but a lot of times like the thinner celebrities with, I think it's the Fabletics. I think is one of them, and like where they're, like it's all about like. Yeah, I mean, I get it. You're trying to sell it, but like when they're working out, like they have all their makeup on, you know what I mean? Like there's all this makeup, they're all like dressed up, look perfect, and we're gonna go work out. And I'm like, if you look perfect when you're working out, are you working out? Like, you're sweating, drenched in sweat. Like, how are you going to, kind of not if you sweat that much, but it's just kind of like the working out should not be about like, I mean, yes, after you work out, I guess you do look at how you look to just like if you're trying to lose weight. But while you're working out, it shouldn't be about like, I mean, I know this is another part going to the gym part, but like you shouldn't be looking at in the mirror the whole time you're working out, I don't think, right? Because I feel like it should be more about how you feel, right? And the feeling behind it. And I think sometimes it's more about the aesthetic, like, oh, we're gonna do the yoga and then we're gonna go, people go to, well, or used to, I guess, go to Starbucks or some coffee place. And then, and it's just kind of, it's like, we like the look of it, but not, right. And then, or even people like, you're not going to work out, but we're wearing workout clothes. And it's like, oh, okay. And also, and it's true, I'm in China and, yeah, sometimes I do see some like for the Tai Chi, normally in the early mornings, you'll see Tai Chi happening. And it's older people, like elderly people, grandparents, and of course they're not wearing yoga pants, of course. They're wearing like, proper flowing, like movable clothes, and they're doing their Tai Chi. And it's clearly not about the aesthetic part of it, right? It's about like the feeling that you're having and the spiritual aspect of it kind of thing, which I thought that's kind of the point, right? Because it's supposed to be for your mind and your body and things like that. And so I've seen that at times also. And so, yeah, I think it's important for us to, not be sucked in by the aesthetic part. Because I feel like in the beginning, in the olden times, I don't think that was kind of the point. Whereas now it's made it, you only see I mean, sometimes you'll see more fully figured women and you see more, but even that where it's like, you have like thinner women wearing the stretchy, super tight yoga pants kind of thing. And then the more fuller figure, like, oh, we can wear it too kind of thing. And I'm always kind of like, why can't we just wear what we want? Like, why do we always have to, it always feels like it's some kind of competitive thing where it's like, oh, well, you do it. Well, I'm going to do it now. Or, and I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's the point of the whole working out thing. And which is another layer, because sometimes people feel intimidated to go to the gym, or they feel like, well, if I can't balance like this, or I can't lift weights a certain, then I can't go. And that's not, everyone should feel like they can go and do whatever, regardless of how, and even if you don't care that, like for me, I'm a type of person where I don't care that much. If I go to the gym, I'm like, I don't need to dress up. I'm not there to look for it. But even I feel the energy in the gym, where when I used to go to gyms some years ago, it's like this. Yeah, some people are like they don't care, and other people are really competitive and really into it. Oh my gosh, they're going to and you see, and God forbid you go to the weight section with all the mirrors, all these men out of nowhere be like lifting with the muscles, and I'm like, why are you just staring at your muscles in the mirror? What is this? Aren't you here to work out? I don't understand. So I would see this and I'd be like, okay, let me not laugh. Let me look away kind of thing. Because I'm like, what? So it's always interesting to see the different, like when you go to the gym, are you just going for the strength of your body, or just for the look, right? And I think that also is a part of mindfulness, right? Because you need to be thinking about how do I feel, just about not so much what I look like, but how I feel, right? So yeah, I would definitely agree that it definitely makes it difficult, right? Because for me too, I think I went through that phase also of like, what kind of working out do I, want to do? And obviously that this is, I mean, before PCOS, it wasn't as big of a deal, but now that I have PCOS, like you have to have a certain like level, like you can only do a certain type of exercise kind of thing, because that can be an issue with PCOS also. But yeah, it was always like this thing where do you want to do yoga, or do you want to do Zumba, or do you want to lift weights, or do you like what kind of exercise do you do that would work for you, and like what is the one that makes sense, right? Which of course is also influenced by the TV and the commercialization of it. It's like what, it's like, if you're not sweating and drenched in sweat and on the floor, then you're not doing it right. Like, kind of thing. And I'm like, but wait, I can't feel my legs. Is this how it's supposed to be? So yeah, I find I like the dancing. Like, I mean, I know swimming also. I've heard swimming is really like good for you. But yeah, so that's another side of it.
Okay.
And I guess we can, if you want to move on to the self-regulation part.
Right. So with regulating emotions, I found this great clip, which I will link in the show notes in the post for this, that I liked how he described the process of regulating emotions. Mm-hmm. So when we say regulating emotions, pause, and you listening, think about what comes up in your mind if someone says, are you regulating your emotions, or do you know how to do that? And I feel this description of how he breaks it down is important, because the way he describes it, he notes that, okay, you have the emotion, you pause and directly identify what the emotion you are feeling. Then you pause and identify, okay, what has triggered it? What is connected to? Then you allow the emotion to feel through, and then you don't throw it away, but you allow yourself to take note that the emotion is not you. So you feel through it as if it's a passing through you and going outside kind of thing. Almost like when you see a bug in your place and you have to understand that the bug is actually just trying to get to the other side, but your house is in the way. So that's why it's in your house to just get to the other side where there was grass. So that's kind of what the emotion is doing. And then once you allow it to go and let it go, right? You again remind yourself, there you go. Remind yourself what you were supposed to learn from that experience, and try to maintain remembering that, so you don't have to necessarily repeat it. And this is a practice in understanding that your emotions are always an experience, always a signal from your every other aspect of your body about something happening within you or around you, but it's not your identity. So I love the way he described that, because I think sometimes when we think about regulating emotions, we tend to feel like we should just, if we're made to feel like being emotional or having emotions makes you sensitive or weak, or it's a distraction, because I mean, if you didn't have these emotions, you would get your work done. So like, what are you doing?
Of course.
So we are then kind of taught to suppress them, to dismiss them, to belittle.
Beat them into submission.
Okay. Belittle them. Yes. Thinking that, well, as long as I don't look at it, it's fine. But unfortunately, that allows the emotions to just like fester, and they're still sitting there on your back and come out different, causing you a problem, right? So I liked the way he described it, and this also, I think we had a little bit of this in the previous episode of how we navigate our own emotions, or how important it is to navigate them in this way. Because I do feel that emotions can become distractions if we choose to agree with suppressing them, dismissing them, belittling them, or not exercising, training ourselves to understand how to navigate them. And I think especially the part about identity, because I think I have had to grow with that, of especially if there's certain emotions that you actually just repeatedly keep on carrying, regardless if you keep on trying to like, okay, I'm going to keep on just moving forward. But for some reason, certain emotions are just still like, we're still here. We're still here. Yeah, I know you did this and you did that, but we're still here. And gradually you kind of, or it's not only that they're still here, that you still feel it, or it's possible they also are emotions that people continue to dismiss towards you, like condemn you for the emotion that you are responding with, or condemn you or indict you or shame you for the emotion that you are dealing with. That after a while, we do tend to be like, oh, that's my identity. Like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, as in sometimes he would identify as like, he's just always sad. When actually it's not that his identity is not the sadness. It's just that he's been feeling sad for a very long time and has had issues navigating, well, how do you lift it, right? And then what was beautiful in the cartoon was that his friends did not condemn him or shame him for his sadness, which maybe could have been depression, right? It was like, we're still going to learn we're still going to include you. We're still going to invite Eeyore on this adventure. Even though he's sad, it's okay. And some episodes you would note that Eeyore actually would be very grateful. Like, thank you for inviting me, even though I'm dealing with some sadness right now, but actually today was a really nice day because it was nice that you invited me. Like those sorts of things, that's where the identifying comes in, where it's like, because you've been carrying it for so long, you define yourself as that emotion. And so the regulating part is very important to disentangle ourselves from that, because I think that causes us, sometimes I feel that has caused me to possibly create a box thinking that there's no door out of it, when actually the door was open, but I couldn't see it sometimes because I'm I'm allowing this emotion to be my identity, as opposed to it's an experience that I'm supposed to learn from and keep it moving kind of thing. And unfortunately, because we are in the driver's seat, the emotion won't remind you that. Like technically it's just reminding you by being present. That is its reminder. It's not going to also come with instructions of like, hey, I'm here because I need you to drive me to this point and drop me off. I don't want to stay in the car with you. I'm not supposed to be here the entire time. Like, drop me off already. Why am I still here?
Why are you keeping me here?
Why are you still carrying me? I need to go. What are we doing? Stop it. Right? But the emotion won't do that. It'll just be like, I'm going to just add some more in my suitcase because you want to carry me the whole way.
I don't want to be the passenger princess. Let me out.
Exactly. So that's how I have found, which, as you know, in the previous episode, I'd be having whole conversations with these emotions. I found that trying
shareholder,
indeed, in that whole conference call, trying to navigate defining your identity that goes beyond your emotions takes time and practice. And this is where, which I'll stop now so you can also respond, but this is where we will also then segue into how your brain because I feel like emotions are not just some separate thing. It's connected to your brain, it's connected to your heart, it's connected to your gut, it's connected to your muscles, like it's connected to your teeth, it's connected to everything. I don't think we can always compartmentalize it, claiming don't listen to your heart or don't listen to your mind. Like it's not, all of it is connected. You can't be disconnecting it like that. Like, no. So noting how with meditation and mindfulness, this is a muscle that you're training. Your brain is a muscle, your heart is a muscle. This deal of navigating the emotions that are basically connected to every aspect of these muscles is something that you have to train and practice with. And it takes time and dedication and discipline and intention to do that. Okay.
Yeah. I want to add the identity thing that you were saying. I looked up the word. The word is anthropomorphized.
Okay, so it's not anamorphs. Got it. Okay.
No, it's anthropomorphized, or I don't know how to say it. How do you say it? Anthropomorphized. Anyway, to attribute human form or personality to something. So basically, that's what we're doing with our emotions, where when we feel an emotion, we think we are that emotion. And also, yeah, it's true. We always have that head versus heart thing. We're like, oh, did you go with your head or did you go with your heart? I'm like, actually, they're both. I feel like they're always influencing each other. I don't think there's much separation with them, actually. And also, because the way we talk about, it's like, oh, if you're with your heart, it's your emotions, and if your head is just your thoughts, right, or just like the actions that you do because of your thoughts. But I'm like, are your thoughts not influencing your emotions, and emotions influencing the thoughts, right? So yeah, I like what you said about the identity thing and I love the passenger princess thing, where it's like the emotion is the passenger and it's supposed to be dropped off and you continue to carry it, and like you're supposed to let go of it. Like, I told you, here's the water, pour it out, and then you won't. Like, why are you, kind of thing. And I also I like what you said about Eeyore, which also, like, why didn't we talk about, like, when we were a child, we're like, oh, like before I knew what depression was or whatever. I'm like, he's sad all the time. Like, why aren't we talking about this in this kid show? What kind of depressing? And he's always sad, like always just out of it. And we're just like, is anyone gonna ask him if he's okay? Like, what kind of show is this? I'm gonna go back and watch it and be like, what? Why didn't anybody help him? I don't get it. But maybe, I don't know. There's probably some psychology behind that. Probably have to go look it up, do a research paper, whatever, what you feel like doing. But yeah, it's true though. They never like shamed him for his emotions. They were just like, oh, you're always out of it. Cool. Let's go. Especially Tigger, who's the complete opposite.
Right.
Of that. So that was kind of interesting. But we saw some sadness from Tigger also. I think when he's trying to find his people, or I don't know what that was about, kind of thing. People, animals. Find his people, animals.
It's all good.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we do that a lot where you think, I'm sure people have heard that you are not your emotion kind of thing. Like, just because you're sad doesn't mean you're sad, right? And then we also see this of how people act differently. Like, I've been able to witness this of other people too, where like when they were sad, they acted like a completely different person. And then when they get happy, it's like a 180, like, who are you? You know what I mean? Like, you really change who you are, right? With kind of thing. And then also we think about our thoughts, right? If you think about people, like, I mean, I don't know why, like, memory loss comes to mind for some reason. Or like, I was watching some old anime I watched, or something about some character, oh no, it was about robots, I think. I don't know. Anyway, the point was they didn't remember who everybody was, and that really changed their personality, right? And I think it's the same thing with emotions. Like, if you feel your emotions a certain way, they change how you act, and it connects everything else. But if you don't feel well, that could make you sick physically. People can really, like, I've even heard of people like dying from like a heartbreak kind of thing, where obviously your actual heart is not breaking, but it still hurts, right? You know how we're always like, oh, your heart hurts, but I'm like, how? How is it hurting if it's not physically hurting? So clearly our emotions cannot be something to get rid of. If like when you think about the feeling you get when you get like heartburn, right? Or when your stomach hurts because of a food you ate that was not. And then think about how when you get really, really sad sometimes and your stomach hurts and then you like throw up, right? Why would you throw up if there's something wrong with your stomach? So obviously our emotions are a lot more important than we, like to make them out to be. And as I had mentioned earlier before, about when I would have loved to know. It's only more recent, in recent years I've been able to know more about how to deal with, I wouldn't say deal with, like apparently there's a difference between controlling your emotions and regulating them. And I wish I could have known more about that as like a teenager, because I remember times as a teenager when, and it wasn't because of my period, like it wasn't because of, like I was just like my emotions didn't make any sense. And then like you ask an adult, like help me understand, and they don't either. And I'm like, I don't get it either. What am I supposed to do with this kind of thing? And it would have been nice to kind of know, because I was always kind of like at the mercy, yeah, like it's like you're always at the mercy of your emotions, right? Which is kind of interesting, because I feel like that's not the same with physical things. Like if I like hurt my finger, or I hurt, like, well, some obviously with intense injuries is a different thing, but like it's like, oh, I'm not like, if I hurt my finger, then I'm just not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna sit down and just stare at the wall and not do anything. Like, no, like it hurts, you bandage up and you keep on going as much as you can, right? Or even like when people hurt their legs or something, like why don't they just sit around and do nothing? But no, like, oh, we're gonna get crutches, or oh, we're gonna get a wheelchair, so because you want to keep on doing stuff. But yet for our emotions, we are just like, oh well, it hurts, and I'm just gonna sit here and like not move or not do anything, kind of thing. So I think that we really do have to, I think more information has come out where you have to figure out how to regulate your emotions. Like you're not supposed to like ignore them, and you're not supposed to beat them into submission either, right? You're just supposed to like feel them, understand, to try. I mean, it's difficult, but you kind of have to be a little bit more, I think we mentioned this before, a little bit more objective with your emotions. Think about, why am I feeling this? What is this connected to, and what can I do about it in the present? Not, oh, what I'm going to do about it, or what I used to do. No, what can you do about it right now in like an action way, right? And I remember I think I was listening to some other podcast or something where this actor was saying like right when he wakes up in the morning or something, he's anxious. Like the moment he wakes up, he has anxiety. And he was like talking to his therapist or something. And his therapist was like, okay, what do you do when you get anxious? Like, oh, I just lie there. I just lie there and not do anything. I just lie there. And she's like, get up. Like, what do you do? Like, get up, go to the bathroom, go outside, do something with the emotion. Don't just like sit, in it. And I know for me, sometimes I have tried different ways to do it. Sometimes I'll write what I'm feeling. Other times I'll just be like, why am I feeling this way? Okay. And then I try to be gentle with myself. Like if I can't do anything about it, then I'll just kind of wait to feel it and be like, well, I know I won't feel like this all like forever, right? And eventually you'll switch, right? But then I think there's different levels of emotions, right? There's some that you feel in the moment, and then there's like a low grade feeling of, which I feel like everyone goes, especially in the world we're in. There's always some low grade sadness or listlessness or depression or some kind of anxiety that's always kind of there, that kind of bubbles up and then goes away, bubbles up kind of thing. And I'm still figuring out how to deal with that. The emotion still keeps on trying to get out of the passenger seat, and I'm like, no, like it tries to open the door. I'm like, no, I lock it back in. Stockholm syndrome. You emotion are not going anywhere, right? So yeah, and I think we don't get taught that. We get taught how to deal with physical stuff. Like if you hurt yourself, oh, okay, bandage it. Oh, put a band-aid. Oh, but what do we? How do we deal with the like? How do we stop the bleeding that is not physical? How do we stop the bleeding that we can't see, right? Which obviously we can't see it. So, and of course, I think it's hard to teach, I guess, because like even older people don't know how to do it either. Like they kind of just figured it out, dealt with it, kept on going, and I always think it's interesting that we see emotions as like a weakness. I always find that interesting because like emotions are not like a gender. Like why do we put a gender on, like, oh well, or I guess, well, gender, maybe sex, or there's a word I'm looking for. But like we're like, oh, like they're feminine. I'm like, emotions? Like I don't get it. It's a human experience. Men and women have emotions. So I don't get how I mean, maybe the actions you take are different, but like everyone has emotions, right? And I think if we can learn how to regulate them and figure out like, why do I feel this way? What is this connected to? And what can I do about that? And then, or also, even if you're not ready to deal with the emotion, acknowledge that, because I think that also is the issue. Sometimes I feel something, I know why I feel it, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to deal with this right now. I don't want to deal with this weird past thought that keeps on popping up. I don't want that. Can I just like get out of that, you know? But yeah, and I guess that can also bring us to I guess like meditation can bring it so that like how can we use, and maybe I'll let Dagny start because she knows a bit more about this information and has more patience than I do when it comes to meditation. But yeah, how Dagny, let me know, put the question to you. How do you think one can, or how do you use meditation to help you with your emotions and mindfulness?
Right. So for me, the way I look at meditation, or I feel the mindset you need to go in with it, is that meditation, the focus of meditation is not to turn off your mind or to throw it away or to silence it. It's
okay.
Not.
Beat it into submission.
Right?
No.
It's not for control. It's actually the opposite, that the focus of meditation is to surrender, to allow yourself, trusting yourself enough to surrender. So it's a practicing of surrender and trust within yourself. And this is something, as you practice, again, this might go in with the commodification part. You don't need to be on a beach or in the mountains or in a
Nirvana,
a field of sunflowers to meditate. It would be beautiful to do that. I'm sure it adds to the experience. I have yet to get the opportunity to do that, but I'll let you know if it changes the experience. Yeah. But for me, I feel meditation should be something that we practice to be able to do even when we don't have the privilege of silence and space to do it. So it actually, for me, I feel it has enabled, I like to see it as a superpower in terms of being able to really like be so in tune with yourself, almost like you have this energetic field around you, protecting you, regardless of what's happening around you. And it's not because you're under the influence of narcotics. It's not because you're pretending the house is not on fire. It's just you really are present and aware of everything, but you also are still very trusting. So a tip I would give to start, if this is brand new, like you've heard about it, but you ain't never done it, and you might have some whispering in your mind that, well, that's not for me because like my mind always goes 100 miles a minute, or that's not for me because I have a million tabs open in my mind and things like that. Yeah. Or that's not me because your lifestyle or your life or your responsibilities just seem so noisy or chaotic. So it just seems like meditation is for people who have a privilege to be quiet, sort of thing. Okay. The first thing you got to focus on is your breathing. As you're practicing to grow trust and surrender within yourself, be very mindful of your breathing. When you're focusing on that, practice getting into the habit of breathing deeper all the time. If you've never noticed your breathing before, obviously you've been breathing because like if you're listening to this, we are going to assume you're alive. To an extent, right?
Hey, there could be robots.
I know, right? I don't want to discriminate, but if you breathe, okay, take note of, are your breaths shallow? Are they always focused in your chest or in your, I guess, your diaphragm or stomach area? When you want to start meditating or want to start practice meditation, focus on carrying your breath away from your chest and bring it into your diaphragm and your stomach. So that when you breathe in, your stomach or your diaphragm should expand, not your chest and not your shoulders. So while you're breathing deeply, your chest and your shoulders should be relaxed and calm. All right. So actually, let's do a practice right now. Let's do a practice right now with you listening to Molly.
Might as well.
I want you to take a moment now and you're going to breathe in deeply and only through your nose. And you make sure that you're filling your diaphragm. All right. So breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3. Ma'am.
Sorry. Continue.
It's all right. You breathe out for 4, 2, 3. Wait, hold on. There are people talking in the hallway.
But this is what you mean.
This is what I mean.
The chaos.
There you go. Regardless. Actually, I'm not even going to mute myself. It's fine that people are outside or something, okay? Mm-hmm. Because remember, you are focusing on just your breathing. And it's fine if thoughts are coming through your mind. It's fine if there's noise around you. You surrender to the thoughts and you surrender to the noise and you thank them. You're grateful for the thoughts. You're grateful for the noise. Remember, you're still breathing. Focus on your breathing. But while you're doing this, you're being very present and almost feel like you're leaning back into yourself. You don't necessarily have to change your posture or lay down on the floor, but just feel like you are surrendering. You're really in your body. All right. Now, when thoughts are going to come up of like, oh, but wait, I need to remember, I need to take out the trash. Oh, wait, no, I need to remember, I need to respond to this email. Or wait, actually, so-and-so texted me, I need to check. Anything that's coming up in your mind, just say, thank you. We can get to that later. And keep just focusing on the breathing. Now, that is for my tip of you starting out. You can do that at your desk. You can do that first thing in the morning when you wake up. You can do that while you're commuting. You can do that anywhere, regardless of how noisy or quiet your space is. You can do it with your eyes closed. You can do it with your eyes open. But this practice is getting you to build a habit of being more intentional about your breathing and allowing your breathing to be more healing within yourself. Because if you notice, when you're breathing with your chest and your shoulders, that is feeding into anxiety. That is feeding into the fight, flight, freeze, I might be in danger mode. While when you breathe from down here, that is giving your body the signal that you're safe. Similar to what people say when you sing, if you feel anxious, if you start singing, you can release the anxiety. Because when you sing, you have to breathe down here. And that's giving your body a signal that actually you're safe, you're okay. So it's a similar, you can hum and sing too while you're doing this breathing if it works for you. But it's a similar concept of practicing surrendering and trust. Once you feel you got that, now that is meditating. Even though it's just the beginning, technically, if you can practice that, just that part, you can proudly say that, yes, you do be practicing meditation. All right. The next level, which is where the nirvana aspects might come from, the levitating parts may come from. Okay. That comes with now that you have gotten to the point where you can allow yourself and your mind to surrender and be more present. That's when you start actually being proactive of, okay, I thank these other thoughts. And now actually I want to visualize something while I'm doing this breathing. I want to bring in affirmations. I want to bring in some even traveling within their mind or within their body. That is where the next level of meditation comes in. And again, you can do that while you're doing yoga. You can do that while you're on a walk. You can do that while you're sitting down, do that while you're laying down. The physical activity it needs to be what resonates with you. If you feel more comfortable sitting on the floor or in a chair or doing it while you're doing yoga and things like that, do what works for you. But that is like the levels of meditation when you are speaking to the folks who they are a coach in it, or they've been doing this for a long time. So they can be in this breathing thing for 5 hours straight and just there, that is training, almost like the Olympics when you're doing these sorts of things, where really all it is just being mindful of your breathing and be still. The beauty of that and what I have noted is that as I've practiced that, where I can go for quite a few hours, actually, if I wanted to, when I do set time to do this, the breathing part I will do throughout the day, regardless if I'm doing yoga or not. This is the way I breathe. I actually breathe slower and deeper normally. That I've had to train and practice myself for, so that I actually can be even more discerning and in tune in myself. When I note my breathing has changed, that is a signal to me of like, there's something here that doesn't feel safe to me. Why? Or I'm triggering myself for something. Why? Because I can feel that my breathing has moved up into my chest area. So now that's a signal for me to like, let me pause, bring my breathing back, and now start regulating, right? The next aspect of that though is also when you're able to do this for longer periods of time, so that you almost create a sense of peace within yourself. That is where when people talk about how there's certain inspirations or visuals or even downloads that they experience. It's in those moments of peace and trusting and present and surrender that comes from. So that's why I take note that I feel meditation and prayer go hand in hand. They're not exclusive of each other. It's just that, well, for some, you're saying a certain incantation or a certain verse, and you say you got a download or a response from that. While with meditation, maybe you're just silent. And sometimes in your mind, ask a question like, what do you need me to know? Or what should I do with this particular thing I've been working with? And just be quiet. And the answer comes to you. For some, okay, maybe a visualization in your mind. For others, after your meditation was done, there's something on your phone, or there's something on your desk, or there's some symbol or signal that has some synchronicity that has the response to your question. Yes. But that level of training to create that space, eliminating those distractions, that takes time and practice. And sometimes, like for me, sometimes I can go for quite a bit. Other times I can take note of like, okay, my mind still has quite a bit of a to-do list it wants to get through. So I'm thankful for that. I'm just going to give myself time to do some stretches and be grateful and love on myself. And then we'll get to it. So maybe this will only be 30 minutes. Maybe this just be 10 minutes instead of a full hour, right? If I'm setting off time to do the yoga. While other times I can be in a busy space and I'm just taking a moment to myself. People looking at you, maybe they'll notice or not. Again, it's not a performance. It's not an aesthetic. It's for you. So that is how, in terms of you want to get started with meditation, or it's something you've been thinking about or curious of, but maybe you have yet to find the tips or the resources or the instructions that felt accessible to you. I hope and trust this exercise at least gets you started in the right direction.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, it's good to know you could do it whenever, you know, 'cause I think a lot of times people are like, oh, there's too much chaos. I'm too busy. And like, hey, you take showers, you brush your teeth, right? You like, you know, there's always some seconds that you can use to do it. So I think the breathing thing is important. I think that's helped me too. Sometimes if you remember what your breathing is doing, not only is you're like, okay, something's wrong, but it also forces you to be present. That's what I've noticed. Sometimes I try to be like, okay, what are my eyes doing? What is my nose doing? What are my fingers doing? Then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not thinking about the past or the future. I'm in the present. What? So I think, yeah. And I also think younger, meditation always seemed to me something only special people can do. You know, you have to like sit a certain way with your legs crossed and your fingers are out a certain, like a lotus, and you're like, oh! And I'm like, wait, when can I just wanted to do it so I could like fly. Cause like when I was a kid, I'm like, that would be fun, you know? And it's like, oh, you can fly, but like in your thoughts. Oh, I got it. Right. So, because I know for me, it's anyone that is like, I don't know, like gets impatient or anxious like I do, it's hard for me to sit still for long. I'm like, oh, can I go on my phone now? Can I go outside? Can I do something? You know, kind of thing. So sometimes just doing that, and just sometimes I'll be like, I'll just sit and not do anything, or I'll just breathe and just sit and like put my phone somewhere else, and then kind of be like, okay, what am I doing? You know, or I think the shower is a really good bathroom, brushing your teeth are a really good time, because you're not doing it, you can't do anything else, right? So you might as well, you know? And then it makes me think of, and I don't know if this is why like performers like it, because I feel like if you're a performer, like a singer or actor or something like that, I feel like you have to be present, right? Because if you have like a script, you have to remember, it kind of forces you, and you have to breathe. I remember when this is a while, but in the past when I did some acting, I used to sing opera and things like that. A big part of singing and acting and performance is breathing. Like you really have to, your breathing has to be intentional, because then you will make a mistake, or you will trip up, or you will forget things. And I specifically remember this one dance class, I think, or acting class I took back in high school, where we did this exercise where everyone would lie down. You don't have to lie down, but for this, we would lie down, and we had to focus on our breathing. And then we had to like visualize energy, and like we had to move the energy with our minds. So while everyone was lying down with their eyes closed, and then one of the other students who knew this would tell us, okay, feel the energy in your feet. Now feel it traveling in your legs, and then your chest, and then your head. And like you have to feel And it sounds silly, but like as it got quieter and quieter, I could really see in my mind like a bright light traveling, and I was like moving it with my mind. And then when you wake up, well, hopefully you don't fall asleep. That's not the point. But you get up and you're like, oh, and you really do feel kind of like at peace, kind of thing. So that was really cool exercise. And so sometimes if I have, I tend to have like insomnia and things like that. So sometimes I'll try doing that to get myself to sleep, where I'm kind of just focusing on the feeling and forcing myself to breathe deeper. And which is because because I used to like do singing and things like that, I had to exercise that too. You have to breathe through your diaphragm if you want to sing louder and well, even quieter or stronger, you need to breathe. And so it's like, I know how to breathe with my diaphragm and yet I still don't do it sometimes, even though I'm like, I know I was a singer, I know how this works. But if you really try to, you have to really put air in your diaphragm and really push it down there and not be, because when you're anxious, it tends to be up at the top where your chest is and your shoulders are just like all scrunched up, and it needs to be calm. So I think that, that there's kind of, and then let your body know, right? It's not fight or flight. And then also to everything, for me, everything connects to like PCOS situation, because like things like stress and cortisol can be really bad if you have PCOS. So it actually is integral to be able to control it. But of course, for anyone, if you can kind of figure out, how can I be silent, whether I'm in silence or not, whether there's chaos or not, right? As opposed to, well, I can't find the time, or I can't find the special place or the mountains or nirvana or anything like that. So it makes it hard to do. But yeah, so I think, I'm still practicing with it, because I find the meditation thing, I can't do it all the time. Right. And like, I feel like if you can practice to meditate or just breathe, being aware of your breathing whenever, then that can be like a superpower, right? To be able to do it whenever you can. Because even with the emotion thing, it's easy for me now to say, oh, when I get angry, I'll do this, or I won't let myself get taken away, or I won't, but when you actually are in the anger, it's very hard. That's when you need help regulating it. That's when you need to figure out, how do I deal with this emotion? So if you can practice doing that, whether you're in chaos or not, or it's really loud around you, or you don't have time, or you don't think you're the type of person that can do it, that's when you should do it. Right? You should do it. And like, I think this other quote that someone said, like, there's oftentimes in life, you have to do things whether you want to or not. And like, if you practice doing things, whether you want to do it or not do it, then you'll do it. Right. And I think meditation is a big part of that. So it's always cool to learn more meditation techniques. And I know even that gets a little bit commercialized, when you have like Matthew McConaughey is talking to you on the Calm app, like, all right, we're going to go to sleep now. Like, I don't know if you know what I mean? I think he's on the app. I think he is. Like, it's the Calm or Sleep app. Oh, Harry Styles, I think, is also
no.
There's all these different accents, and anyway, and there's like a celebrity that talks to you that makes you like fall asleep, which I guess could help sometimes if you can remember what they're speaking of in your mind. But anyway, the main thing is, if you can focus on your breathing throughout anything, I think that helps. Or not even breathing. Like for me, sometimes I think about like, am I blinking right now? Like I know it's a dumb, but sometimes you forget that you blink. Like it's so normal, right? Or I'll be like, what are my hands doing right now? Like just like stuff like that. Or it's like, where are my feet? And then the moment you feel your feet, oh my God, you're present.
Indeed.
So it's kind of, anyway, but that's, I'd be saying neither here nor there, but
everywhere,
anyway,
anywhere,
to close
all
up
at once.
before we take 5 hours, I hope
Indeed.
you enjoyed our skit, and let us know what you think about regulating your emotions and breathing and meditation and mindfulness and yoga or whatever exercise you do. I don't know.
Yes. So no, thank you so much for the conversation.
Yes.
Part 1 and 2, I think we did a good job in terms of sharing our experiences about eliminating distractions. So we hope you enjoyed this discussion. As always, like she said, let us know your thoughts or your tips or methods that you use to continue mindfully and wholesomely eliminating distractions. Thank you again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
All right. Yeah. Bye.
Take care. Bye.